Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Monday, and that means it's time for the Wrestling Inc. Monday Night Raw after show. And have we got a show for you? Shinsuke Nakamura spitting all over the place. Becky Lynch is running it back against the face breaker, and CM Punk has signed to Monday Night Raw. But before we get into all of the news and notes, folks, I'm Jack Farmer, being joined by Jimmy Korderas and Justin LaBar. Jimmy, we'll start with you, old pal. How are you?
Well, I'm doing good. I thought we had a fun night and lots to talk about. So looking forward to tonight's episode, getting Triple J back together again.
Back and better than ever, as a great theme song once said. Justin, before we went live, you were telling me about how you are clenching a playoff spot.
I'm in a three-way tie for one of the last playoff spots. I went into this with my matchup. I went into tonight with one player playing. That was the running back for the Dolphins. My opponent's one player, the quarterback for the Green Bay. I had an 18% chance to win the matchup because they figured based upon the points they projected. But because Jordan Love sucked tonight, and because Mostert for Miami just scored a touchdown, I have 99% locked it up, baby.
Oh, man,
what a comeback story.
What a hero story. I mean, I feel like we spend so much time talking about guys like Rudy when really we should be talking about Justin LaBar's fantasy football team and what they were able to accomplish this year. Do you believe in miracles?
Do you want to know what my team name is?
What's your team name?
Just Incredible.
Love it. Just Incredible.
Wow.
My team, as I was saying before we went on the air, stunk this week, but my opponent's team stunk worse. So I got the win, and that's all that matters.
You're the best of the worst.
Hey, that's all. As long as we get the dubs, baby, that's all we care about. Let's chat some news. Before we do, though, everyone who's in the chat, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. You know, I'm going to start reading out some of these a little bit more often. You know, we get super chats, but I feel like we're just going to I'm going to throw out things like Gigi saying she's lurking. Like, let's give her a shout out. And you know, Baxter saying yo. So I'm going to be shouting out some of you guys a little bit more. So if you want to chat, feel free to hop in the chat. Let us know what you think. I would say my tip is, though, make sure you chat about what we're talking about, because if we're talking about the main event and you ask a question about the opening segment, probably not going to get read out. But if you have a good question, I'll read it out. Let's talk about the news, though. Let's say some news stuff. First, big news in AEW. Kevin Sullivan's firing has ruffled some feathers. And just to make sure everyone knows, this is not the wrestler Kevin Sullivan. This is the post-production executive producer Kevin Sullivan that was let go. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Meltzer said Sullivan's fire has been met with unanimous negative reaction behind the curtain. He added that Sullivan was popular among the talent and the production staff. People who work for AEW believe that Sullivan was, quote, the best at doing his job, which included creating video packages and vignettes, as well as piecing together content for YouTube. Meltzer noted last week that Sullivan was responsible for building AEW's entire post-production team. Jimmy, this is something I've never really thought about before, but obviously the post-production team is a huge part of a pro wrestling company. In WWE, did you have a lot of interaction with them? Did you know who they were, or was that totally separate?
Well, the post-production team is, the people in the truck, Kevin Dunn. Kevin Dunn, of course, the most famous name there. And these guys are very important for putting the finished product out there and getting people interested in what they're watching. Everybody says that I tend to put WWE over a little bit too much here, but one of the things they do very well is their post-production video packages that they get, that they do, and they present during the program, and sometimes on the next for next week, and they set it up, and there's a lot of stuff done behind the scenes that people just don't see. And Kevin Sullivan was well liked and did a heck of a job according to everybody there. So they don't understand exactly what happened here, why he is no longer with the company, whether it was something personal, whether it was something work related, nobody knows. That's the question, and it's terrible to see anybody lose their job, but this one's under strange circumstances because his work has been exceptional, especially as far as the talent goes. And all the people behind the scenes really liked his work, so they don't understand it. So how can I?
Yeah, Justin, it's weird to hear something like a post-production person getting let go, but then also, frankly, it's weird to hear so many people step up for a post-production person at the same time. What's your takeaway on this? It does feel kind of odd.
Yeah, and it seems like it's bad timing. So the way that we understand the story was that it was not Tony Khan who made the decision. It was just that Tony Khan didn't veto the decision to have Sullivan let go. And yeah, it's like you guys outlined, it seems like he was a pretty popular person amongst the company. So, at the time right now where there's a lot of questions swirling around AEW, QT Marshall saying that he's leaving and that the company is going a different direction than where it used to be. And, obviously with Punk being gone and now arriving in WWE, and it looks like WWE, at least on the early going, is just making the most out of this. And, all the other different pieces of drama that we've heard going on with AEW, it amplifies the release of a production person that much more. And one thing I want to know that in the Wrestling Inc. story about this, if you read it, this is what just part of this final paragraph about how Sullivan was allegedly told that AEW was going in a different direction, which is consistent with QT Marshall's decision to leave the promotion. Marshall, who works as an on-screen talent and wears many hats behind the scenes, mentioned that the company has changed a lot since 2019 and has headed in a different direction when he announced on social media that he was departing AEW. According to reports, AEW is going to start prioritizing in-ring action similar to New Japan Pro Wrestling over storylines and angles. And when I hear that, I cannot figure, based upon what have you seen of professional wrestling in the United States of America, based upon what does that formula prove that it's going to increase your viewership and then by turn dollars? So that the Sullivan aspect, along with this different direction that we now keep hearing about, is just a head scratcher.
Jimmy, is there something, because it does seem that historically speaking, the entertainment side of sports entertainment is really what drives people to follow a different wrestling company. But a lot of people say AEW has to find something to differentiate themselves. Is that fair to be like, hey, it's different?
Well, you can do different forms of entertainment. And one of the things is when you talk about the New Japan model, for example, that caters exactly to the United States hardcore wrestling fan. And they're already bought into the product. They're the target audience of AEW. You have to target a broader audience. So you have to be a little more diverse. And yes, you can have your wrestling matches that cater to that audience, but you also have to have a variety. It's almost like a variety show, where you have your segment with a little drama segment, you have a comedy segment, you have a song and dance deal. Wrestling is the same thing. You have to have a little something for everybody to keep the audience growing, if you can, as best you can. And I think that's one of the things that WWE still does to this day is they're very diverse. You get good matches, but you get some entertaining segments. You get the laugh sometimes. And they also get you going,
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully Kevin Sullivan lands on his feet. It sounds like he's well-liked and he seems talented. So I would imagine he'll land on his feet, but best of luck to him. That's always tough news to hear, especially close to the holidays. We move on, and WWE reaches a settlement with MLW over antitrust allegations. Just about 2 years ago, MLW initially filed its antitrust lawsuit against WWE. In its litigation, MLW alleged that WWE had pressured third parties into abandoning deals with MLW, most notably Vice TV and Tubi. But after all the legal rambling, things look to be headed for a settlement of some sort. Per WrestleNomics, MLW and WWE have come to terms on a settlement with both parties. Filed for the agreement today. According to the documentation, both sides were, quote, in the process of completing the final settlement documents. Should all go well, both MLW and WWE file dismissal papers within the next 30 days, officially ending the lawsuit. So, Justin, this is one of those things where settlements are always interesting. You never know if one side's admitting something or if one side's just saying, look, it's not worth our time anymore. Anything to take away from this lawsuit?
Well, yeah, it's those questions. WWE has a pretty good win-loss record when it comes to litigation. You know, I don't know if he's involved in this one, but Jerry McDivitt's got, you know, he's a Pittsburgh-based lawyer. He's got a lot of dubs. Obviously, most famously, Vince beating the United States government on the steroid trial. You know, they've had class action lawsuits brought against them from wrestlers claiming, injuries and such in life, and that's, you know, that stuff's been dismissed. And, you know, so yeah, but you're right. A settlement, you know, the WWE being the defendants in this case, so them agreeing to settle, oftentimes that's get interpreted by people that you know, it's a unofficial admittance of guilt or that they're going to be beaten. That could be the case. But also, this this is the first, I believe, piece of litigation that was going to go to court, or that was in court rather, since WWE is now owned by TKO, since the merger with Endeavor. So it is possible that there's a different strategy where, you know, Vince might stand up in the boardroom and say, "Oh my God, Jerry, we got the best lawyers, we can win this." He might have got out. Who knows? The TKO model might be, we're not even if we know we're in the right, we're not wasting the time, the money, or the bad PR to be in court for this. Let's just settle it. You know, whatever price they settle on, you know, that's worth more than all the other things I just mentioned. So it is hard to say. But I did find it interesting the WWE settling, because that's not something that you commonly. I mean, I know they did settle with Martha Hart, I believe, out of court back in the day as related to the tragic death of Owen. So, I mean, it's been done, but, you know, in this situation, I was a little surprised when I saw the headline that the settlement is apparently what's going to be the outcome here.
Yeah, Jimmy, this is I like how Justin brought up the TKO merger, because it also makes me think, you know, this is an antitrust lawsuit. And when you're the biggest fighting company in the world merging with the biggest wrestling company in the world, and everyone's looking at what this new thing is it a monopoly or whatever the case may be? I'd imagine if you're one of the shareholders, they're saying, let's just hush all this now before we start having people look into what kind of business we have, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. And I think a lot of it does have to do with the fact that they don't want to, under the new ownership here, as Justin alluded to, don't want to have to deal with past issues. So the quicker we get past this, you know, the quicker we can move on and get to the business of conducting our business, so to speak. Not to sound very repetitious there, but I think that has a lot to do with it. But again, the other problem is with wrestling fans, perception sometimes is reality. And by coming to terms and saying you're settling does, in a lot of people's minds, assume guilt. Mm-hmm. But like you said, Justin, I think there may be something there, but at the same time, I think I want this to go away. And once you get it out of the news, so to speak, people's, you know, memories about certain things, you know, you're watching and you don't go, oh, but remember the time they got sued by so-and-so and they had to come to settlement, you know. I think let's move on.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think one other possibly, just speculating, but possibly relevant factor is that this whole case, this whole settled around, you know, WWE, you know, allegedly, you know, getting in the way of other distribution, you know, of Vice, of Tubi, of other distribution for MLW. Well, what do we know that WWE is doing right this moment? We know that they are apparently in the final go home stages to try to secure the next distribution home for Monday Night Raw. So that also might be a bad look. Even if they think, hey, we can win this, but this might drain the next 12, 18 months in the legal system to get it done. And we need to, and in that time frame, we have to have Raw moved in sometime in 2024 or the fall of 2024. That might have been another strategy too, where it's like, you know what, we just gotta settle it, write them a check. We can't have this be the one thing that's stopping our potential new $1 billion deal for Raw because it's a bad look in the TV industry. I mean, I think that's another thing just to throw out there. Again, that's all speculation on my part, but I think it could be a relevant factor.
Mm-hmm. Something that they're also looking to tie up, hopefully, I'd assume, is Seth Rollins' contract. It's been reported, Fightful Select is reporting that Rollins' contract with WWE is set to expire in June of next year. As it stands, there have reportedly been no conversations about extending his contract. Still, Rollins is well-liked and respected by management, and the report notes that an offer will obviously be made sometime between now and June, as the company sees Rollins as a priority. Fightful says Rollins has not responded to a request for comment. Jimmy, this is, I feel like we said the same thing about Drew McIntyre a little bit ago. I guess his is still ongoing, but I feel like this is a long ways away out for them to start talking about a new contract. But it like how do you know how far in advance they usually start having these conversations? Is this? I mean, clearly it's news, but is it like real news? Like he's going to get re-signed, right?
Well, you would assume. Again, you don't want to assume, but at the same time, with that other player now, someone with big money, you're gonna here's that word again. Assume that they're gonna make a play for someone like a Seth Rollins, because we've seen guys or talent come from AEW and move over to WWE that made people go, "Ooh, that's a big deal." Cody. Obviously CM Punk. And also Jade, for example, and the deal they're making now with her and making it seem like such a big deal. Someone to the stature, let's say, of a Seth Rollins going the other way is a big, again, perception thing with the audience, with the fans going, wow, I could never have pictured Seth Rollins going that way. So I think it would be in WWE's best interest to keep him happy and keep him aboard. Mm-hmm. And I don't see him going elsewhere unless it's just a money thing where they just say, hey, offer him so much where he says, I can't turn it down.
Yeah, it's if I was a betting man, Justin, I would say Rollins is going to stay with WWE. That said, if I was a betting man, CM Punk's not going to be in WWE, and Cody Rhodes isn't going. I mean, there's a lot of things I'd say. If I was a betting man, I don't think this would happen, and it did. Anything's possible, but like if you were a betting man, Justin, what are the odds are Seth Rollins ends up in AEW?
I think today the odds are pretty strong that he remains with WWE. But keep in mind, the last time that he signed a new WWE contract, I believe, was in 2019. So AEW is just getting ready to start. And so your lay of the land of competition, if you're WWE, is, well, okay, is the guy going to pick up and go to Japan? In terms of where else can he make comparable money to what we're paying him? Is he going to go to Japan? Well, if he's got his soon-to-be wife and they want to have a family, well, do they want to? Is that going to happen? And he's not going to make that kind of money in TNA, and But now that you do have AEW around, and it's AEW's proven that they can pay people serious money, comparable if not more than WWE pays some people. 6 months is never too early to start negotiations. And hopefully they started. Hopefully, it's never too early when it's your world champion. When it's one of your world champions is your world champion that's more active in terms of matches and appearances. So I think, they'll probably get something done, but also 6 months is not too early when you consider the fact that, his contract's going to expire then 2 months basically after WrestleMania. So you need to know, do we have him locked up long-term, or is he potentially on his way out? Because that obviously is going to dictate and it could alter the way that you book him on the road to Mania and you book him at WrestleMania. Also, we don't know the level of it, and I don't need to know the level of it because we saw some magic later on that we'll talk about, but there's a lot of speculation. What is the real fit? Is this big elaborate work that Seth Rollins and CM Punk have kind of concocted over the years or over the recent weeks, at least since Punk's return? Is there still some things that need to hash out where it's like, look, I don't like you, you don't like me, but let's trust each other and go make some money? And so I say all that because depending on how real the situation is or isn't, you might want to lock Seth Rollins up now and get the ink on paper before, let's say, 2, 3, 4 months down the road, he goes, this isn't working. I'm not liking work. If things go awry, which we've heard has happened before, involving Punk, and then he go, you know what? 3 months ago, guys, I was ready to sign a contract. Now I don't want to re-sign with you guys, or now because I'm pissed off, I have the leverage of I want this much more money. So I think the sooner the better that they can get ink to paper and lock Seth Rollins up long term. That will just benefit everything that I just outlined, but especially when you have Mania around the corner here.
Yeah, this is again one of the reasons why I'm so glad there is another big company in wrestling. Is Seth Rollins probably going to make a ton of money one way or the other, And I think I saw Becky Lynch. I think her contract's coming up too, but it wasn't in the initial report, so I don't want to speak out of turn. But she's probably going to make a whole lot of money also. I like when people make money.
I thought I heard hers was up the same time as his.
Maybe, yeah.
Which all the more leverage the household that they run has.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, it's they're gonna make so much money, and so I'm happy for them because they work hard and they deserve it. I also saw in the chat, and I should have saved it. Someone had mentioned, I don't know if you guys saw, MJF got a picture with John Cena at the Iron Claw premiere, which is probably going to be very popular. A popular photo passed around. Well played by MJF, by the way, to do that.
That's not going to get taken out of context.
Oh,
No.
not at all. No.
I was going to say MJF to Peacemaker 2 confirmed.
No, he knows how to create conversation.
Yep. And so that was really fun. But for now, before we get into the show, as always, everyone who's in the chat, thanks for being here. If you're lurking, thanks for being here. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, 5-star review, all that good stuff. Whether you're Jorge, Beer Money, MDB, Armando, Eki Boy. Eki, I haven't seen you before, Eki Boy. Reaper Brink, Adam Staples, Beer Money, Tuckgraph, Manish all the way from India. Good to see you, Manish and Mr. Meowpuss, Stephen Camp, and everyone else. Thanks so much for joining us. Kenny, the young lurker here in the chat. Thanks for being here. Let's chat a little bit about what happened on Monday Night Raw. Jey Uso comes out and says that he's glad to have Yeet back, and he's sad to hear about Sammy being out. Jey mentions Drew, so Drew comes out. Drew takes a shot at Punk and then apologizes to Sammy to show Jey how it's done before we get the match going. Drew controls most of it, but uses the thumb in the eye to get the edge and get the win. Jimmy, the line I loved here was from Michael Cole, and he said multiple times, "This is not the Drew McIntyre I know." My question for you is just overall, do you like a good guy Drew McIntyre, or do you like a bad guy Drew McIntyre?
I think right now I'm liking bad guy Drew McIntyre, and it fits him because it's believable. Because sometimes you watch someone and you go, "Oh, look, he's playing the heel in this match." When I'm watching Drew in the match, I'm going, Drew's the heel in this match. There's a difference there. You can see he's into it, and he's really putting all his focus and energy into being that heel, that dislikable heel. And you hear it from the audience. They're not liking it. And I think it's working for him.
Yeah, as Dustin in the chat says, Drew is such a good heel. I think he's awesome. And Ethan Cruz, Drew was amazing on the mic. Just feels so natural as a heel in this situation. But,
and really quickly, because you said it on the mic, sorry to cut you off there, John. Yeah. But what heels do is they take truth and kind of not give it to you like, with both barrels. Mm-hmm. Well, actually with both barrels, but one of the barrels is kind of exaggerated, so to speak. They're giving you truth, but the truth is a little bit,
with the heel spin.
Yes, there you go.
It was definitely, he was saying a lot of stuff that he's kind of right. Like he's kind of making good points. But Justin, my question for you here, I want your thoughts on Drew McIntyre, and I feel like he's just gotten so much better over the past few months. But this match, it doesn't feel like the end of what's going on between these two, but are you still interested in seeing more from these two, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I am. Drew is, I love Drew as a heel. He's just got the size and look, and then, he can be a menacing heel, a very, very dangerous looking heel. And then, Jey Uso is, I never thought that an Uso twin, that both of them, but especially Jey, that he just emerged as being such a single star. He truly does feel like a main event top player. And so just because he's so over as a face and Drew is getting such good heel reactions, in a day and age where sometimes you get such blurred lines with the audience, the fact that they're all pretty much in favor of booing him, booing Drew and cheering Jey, I don't mind seeing more of them, and they work well in the ring together. That said, I just poor Drew McIntyre. He Rumble 2020, he eliminates Brock Lesnar and all that, and and it had the moment. All right, it's like, all right, we're gonna get the Drew McIntyre. He's gonna be the next big baby face. It's gonna be the run, and then of course he ends up being our COVID Thunderdome champion. Never truly gets the honest run that he deserves. And then now as a heel, he's hitting all cylinders as a heel, but the space is so crowded in WWE right now that I don't see any realistic path of him actually taking a title at this time of the year in the calendar, with given how packed it is. And so I just kind of feel bad for him that it's of no fault of his. He's doing all the right things, whether he's, being asked to be a face or heel, but I don't believe it's going to result in him getting the top prize. He's just going to always come up one match short.
Yeah, I was talking to my buddy about this while I was watching the show. Is like the WWE is so top heavy right now. They have so many people who are like world title people that even if you're one of the very best, it's like, I mean, sorry, just might not be in the cards for you. It's a good problem to have, but it's like, geez.
Yeah. I do want to point out though in this match is one thing, and I tweeted about it, and because we have a referee, I can't not bring it up. The match was pretty good, except for I cannot stand the ref spot they do towards the end. Mm-hmm. So McIntyre rips the top turnbuckle pad off in order to then initiate the ref's attention to go to that. And the referee picks up the deal, kind of looks at it, examines, kind of feints attempt to put him. Oh, I can't get the thing. Like does all this, but it was just enough time for Drew. I think Drew low blowed Jey. I think is what he did.
No, that big thumb
or the thumb to the. So he does the cheating with the rest, and the ref's like, well, this is the turnbuckle pad, and then he turned. I don't. It just the whole way. If you go back and watch the execution of it, and then how it, I was like, we could have done better. Why do we do it that way? It made it. I felt myself laughing, and I'm like, this was not supposed to be a comedy spot.
Yeah,
right.
You know what I think it might be too is because I agree with you on that. I feel like Drew isn't what I don't think of him as the conniving guy. I feel like he's the do what I have to do guy. So I feel like he would stick his thumb in someone's eye because that's what a tough fighter would do, but not like I'm going to do this trickery to trick the ref, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like I can see him do like a low blow or something, but like the stuff he was doing was like the Miz would do, you know?
Right. No, I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, I like the idea that they were going for, and I like the simplicity of making it look like a vicious, attack on the eyes as opposed to hey, there's a thumb in the eye, that sort of thing. It looked like he was really going in there, but like Justin said, the referee, in my opinion, obviously easy to Monday night quarterback.
Yeah.
Here is. He sees the turnbuckles off, pick up the string or the rope that was with it, appear to look like you're trying to put it on until the actual deal happens behind you. You do have an earpiece, have someone like the producer tell you when the deal is done, and he could still manage to look like he's trying to put it on. And as he looks behind, he sees the Claymore kick, and it's like, and has to decide to make the count as opposed to, oh, this thing ain't going on.
I like the impression, Jimmy. That caught me off guard.
But that's how it felt. It felt like,
yeah.
Oh well, I can't get this on. What the heck?
He looked like a husband who was just asked to go build the kids a new Christmas present, and he went to it and goes,
the kids are playing with something else anyways.
Yeah. And I got to read the instructions too. Oh.
This is supposed to be the kid's job, not mine.
Right.
We got a Bernie DC saying Mania is going to be insane with all that talent. Justin has been consistent on Busted Open, talking about how deep WWE is. Don't need any legends coming back to have a huge Mania. Just a reminder to everyone, check out Justin on Busted Open Radio every Sunday.
And really just a real quick thing. You may not need any legends, but it's WrestleMania. It's nice to have them.
Oh, they'll be there.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be there. Maybe just playing poker in the back, but they'll be there.
With the APA.
That would be awesome. But you have to go through the door. Remember that.
You have to go through the door.
Yes.
So speaking of guys who have their own places backstage, Judgment Day, they're having some tough times in Judgment Day. They're arguing over who's the leader. They're arguing over what's going on with who's at what shows, while at the same time Alpha Academy and the Creed brothers are having fun and try to tell R-Truth that he's not actually in the Judgment Day. Later on, Maxine Dupree and Rhea Ripley have a match, and it's about as one-sided as you would imagine it's going to be, but we do get a post-match stare down between Ivy Nile and Rhea Ripley. Before we get into the big promo from Judgment Day later, Justin, Judgment Day, I've been a fan of theirs for a while. I do think they've been used a little more than they should be at times. but I don't know. I feel like them doing the R-Truth stuff, is it getting a little too silly for them, for a group that's supposed to be taken seriously?
I think we're trying to run the clock out. I think there's a date circled on the calendar of when creative knows this is going to be the implosion of Judgment Day. We're getting closer and closer to it. Tonight would certainly feel like the most amped up with Rhea and Damian getting in each other's faces, and so it feels like we're on the home stretch. I do think little things with the R-Truth again. It's just a few plays to keep the clock running. We still have there's no premium live event until Rumble, and Rumble certainly would be an ideal event for things to really break down because it's every man for themselves, and you could have JD, Finn, and Dom trying to win the Rumble, but of course you win the Rumble, you go fight champion of Mania. Well, Priest wants to become the champion with his Priest. So there's just so many dynamics at play that I think they're just trying to buy a little bit of time, and I think this R-Truth stuff is just one more thing to buy a little bit of time, but also can give you a laugh, be entertaining. So, but I do think we're finally really getting towards the end point. I think Judgment Day has run its course. It is now time to let the dynamics that have been swirling finally, and all the seeds that have been planted finally start to all grow and explode. And Rhea, real quick, dominant as should be. That match was the time length that it should have been. This is the one thing about live TV, you can't unsee things. And Maxine just it did not look. She did quite frankly, she didn't look ready. I don't know what I don't know if there's miscommunications. I don't know if she was nervous. I don't know if it was all the above, but not the best showing there for Maxine Dupree.
Yeah, I don't know, Jimmy, if they put Maxine in the best position to be successful in this situation.
No, it didn't work out, and I don't want people to think, well, it's got to be smooth and clean and looks, flawless. It's okay for things not to come off, 100% precise. Let's put it that way. But this just looked like it was completely off. They were on different channels.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That sort of thing. So it did nothing to enhance Maxine Dupree's, I think, stature with her higher ups watching her going, oh, maybe we could put her in this situation. I think this was a step backwards for her. And as good as Rhea is helping getting talent over, she did her best, but at the same time, not even as good as she is, she wasn't able to help her.
Jimmy, I want to kind of double back on this because you've been in the ring with a lot of people. You've been in the ring with a lot of people who are newer to wrestling. And look, Maxine Dupree's newer to wrestling. Is there something to maybe things didn't start off well and then it became hard for her to get back in? If that makes sometimes when you're new at something, you mess up and then you kind of second guessing everything you do. Do you think maybe something like that happened in this case?
Yeah, that very much could happen because like you said, when you haven't had the repetitions, you haven't had the in-ring time, one little thing is off. Like when she went to pick her up and do the, I guess it looked like the powerbomb kind of position thing.
Yeah.
The first time she tried to do it, it didn't work. And right there, you could tell that Maxine from there on, it just went downhill. So unfortunately, if you don't get your reps in, especially now when they don't do the touring schedule that they used to, because back in the day, all these young talents used to go on the house show schedules, and you'd get day after day after day, you get your ring time in front of a crowd. Now they're back to doing some live events / house shows, but it's nowhere near what it was before.
Yeah, and Justin, I want to say ask you about Ivy Nile at the end. So I'm a big Ivy Nile fan. I was a big Ivy Nile fan in NXT. I think she looks the part. She seems like she's vicious and can beat people up. I'm a little worried that they're having her stare down Rhea Ripley already, though, considering we haven't really seen her on Raw. Do you think that this is just sort of, as mentioned, like a time filler for the Royal Rumble? For Rhea Ripley, or do you think there's going to be something between the two? Do you like the idea of these two pairing up now? Is it too soon for Ivy Nile to be in that spot?
I mean, it's probably some time filler, but this is where there's no other woman, and I'm not forgetting about Becky. There is no other woman right now that is on a level that to me is going to come off as believable to beat Rhea.
Mm-hmm.
And Ivy Nile, so she's a fresh opponent. So there's something there just from we haven't seen it before, But obviously, from just a visual standpoint, obviously size-wise, Rhea towers over her. And I don't, she might challenge Rhea, and and maybe she challenges her on the January 1 edition of Raw, which it seems like they're kind of trying to build and make seem important. But no woman you line up, and they're doing a lot of things with them. They're doing a lot of stuff with the women's tag team division. We're seeing Becky and Nia. We're seeing more time being given, more stories and creative being put into the women, which is great. But Rhea is on a different level, and so that is going to be a task for them this coming year, assuming that Rhea is going to go to Mania again as champion. That I don't know who stands across from her, who you build up between now and then. That is going to be like, all right, this might be the one who's going to beat Rhea Ripley.
Now that you mentioned that, I'm realizing we may have 3 champions, if you think Roman Reigns, Gunther, and Rhea Ripley, that are all going to go bell to bell, Mania to Mania, potentially. And 2 of them having the title before Mania in the first place. So very, very interesting there. Later on, Judgment Day come out and cut a promo. And they're doing their thing when R-Truth comes out and talks about some ideas for the group. They like kicking out JD because no one likes him, and Priest stopping being the boss. Judgment Day beat him up until the Creed brothers come out and chase off Judgment Day. To the Ivy Nile point earlier, Jimmy, this definitely seems like a Judgment Day versus Diamond Mine in the making.
No, it absolutely does, and that's what that segment actually did. It got the Creed brothers over huge. Because, obviously the commentators did a good job of making people realize that they were outnumbered. When they came out to make the save, it was basically a 4-on-2, but they overcame the odds and ended up on top. So they got over with the audience, and that's the main thing. And they feel like a legitimate threat now.
Yep. Justin, anything else to take away from this segment with Judgment Day?
Just that R-Truth is one day going to go into the WWE Hall of Fame. Oh. He is. And when they make the announcement and they put together, as only WWE production can do, and they put together the several minute long video showing some great clips and welcoming him into and announcing him as a in the class of whatever year, they are going to have so many golden sound bites and clips to choose from. I mean, R-Truth every time he steps on the screen, and if you think about the things think about what it probably says on the piece of paper that he's given. Think about how ridiculously dumb it probably reads when you get handed the paper from a writer, and he makes it into his own. He says it as only he could do it. He puts on he does one little thing that, like, whether it's the heel click as he steps into the ring after Priest invites him into the ring, like. I don't know. I know he hasn't. I don't know the last time he's had a TV match. It's been years probably, but it doesn't matter. He's just entertainment gold.
And really quickly, that you talked about Hall of Fame. The speech is just going to be incredible.
He is the king of zigging when you think he's going to zag. Like he steps into the ring with Judgment Day, and I'm just like, what is he going to say? Like, because he's so unpredictable and he's funny every single time. Mm-hmm. Manisha in the chat reminding us that that man made Brock laugh on live TV in what is one of the greatest moments ever. Speaking of Royal Rumble season, before we move on, Stephen Camp says Nikita Lyons is the only one I could see beating Rhea if done right. Stephen Camp, I know, no disrespect for Nikita Lyons, but isn't she just coming back? I mean, she's got to win a few matches first before we start talking like this, right? She's on NXT still. She's got to come up to the main roster before we talk like this. Steven.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, she is somebody, and I think some of this does have to do with physical stature. I think Rhea, that's why it's hard for me with an Ivy Nile or somebody that has a smaller status. Is I'm just like, I know we've seen big man versus little man or whatever before, and it works. It can happen, but I don't know. I think it's going to take it's probably going to take a woman entering in the Rumble and having a very impressive performance in the Rumble and just having an unbelievable, nonstop, unbeatable road to Mania. It's going to take that in order to present something that gives me and the audience all right, I'm going to watch this match in Mania because this might be the one that Rhea loses.
I'm going to, Jimmy, I'm going to give you a choice here. You have Nikita Lyons, you've got Liv Morgan, You've got Jade Cargill or Cora Jade. I don't know which one you. Killer Demons. Which one do you mean? Cora Jade or Jade Cargill? I'm guessing Jade Cargill. Of those names, Jimmy, if you have the pen, who's facing Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania?
I'd say you have Jade be the one. And if you're going to introduce her at the Rumble, put her in the match, introduce her as number one, and let her go wire to wire.
Ooh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I keep racking my brain. Sometimes it doesn't click in. Has anybody gone wire to wire, been number one, and won the Rumble before? Not in the women's.
Actually, I think didn't Rhea Ripley do that? I think Rhea Ripley actually did that, or she was close to it, right?
I think that was last year. I think last year, because I remember I remember the finish being tremendous.
Right.
Yeah.
So if Rhea is the one who did it, and then Jade Cargill is the one who Jade comes in and does it, and they face at Mania, two women that went wire to wire, face for the championship.
There you go. That's a good story there. And Rocky Sasha Banks, of course, could be awesome, but we don't. You can only play with the cards you're dealt right now until she signs a contract. Can't talk about her. But speaking of signing contracts, what a segue! Adam Pearce comes out and invites CM Punk to come out, and CM Punk talks about Cleveland and decides to sign with Monday Night Raw. Cue Seth Rollins. We get a stare down, and Rollins tells Punk to stop calling WWE his home. Says he hates CM Punk. Says that this is Punk's last chance, and he wants to slam the door on him. CM Punk then enters the Royal Rumble. Justin LaBar, this was one of my favorite parts of the night. Just for me, I thought this was an incredible moment. But what say you?
Wow, so much business was done in this. Punk giving a history lesson for those fans, both who remember it. I, of course, do, being here in Pittsburgh with his last match of the Rumble, and then the next night he goes to Cleveland. He's also given a history lesson for those who are newer fans, who are hearing about, okay, why is this guy controversial? He was here before, but now he's back. That's a big deal. So Punk gave some context. He gave an apology. So again, for the fans who have been around, that is a thing. CM Punk to give an apology. If, hey, I'm sorry if the way things ended, it was disappointed you as a fan. I'm going to do better. I'm back home. I'm, whatever. So there was something that just CM Punk had to deal with, just him. And then, of course, you bring in the Seth Rollins factor. I think that's probably Seth Rollins' best promo I've ever seen him do. Mm-hmm. Not to say that he's only a bad promo. He's not. But I think there's a level of, again, the stuff swirling around this. Do they actually really hate each other? What? And I don't need to know. Neither of them need to call and tell me the real thing. I'm happy just going along for the ride. And I think that, of course, helped in this. That helped in this entire thing. And, Rollins, his words that he chose. You're either going to be around here just long enough that you're going to expose yourself, or you're going to be around just long enough to where you might get to challenge me. And then I'm going to expose you. And I'm going to expose you and how you are not the best in the world. That's me. It just tremendous stuff. This is exactly what it needed to be. They left us with, they gave us just enough, but they left us with much more on the table still to come. That was well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always say when they do the based on real life stuff, sometimes it makes me feel icky. Sometimes it's great. This is one of those ones where it's great. I'm like, I love this. This feels good. I want to see him fight now. Jimmy, I thought this was really done very, very well. Let me ask you this. I thought it was interesting because listening to the crowd, because it actually felt like it was split. But then I think the singing at the initial stare down of Seth Rollins' song took over. But then in the end, it was CM Punk chants. How do you think the fans are going to fall in this one?
It's going to be, they are going to be split because fans are into chanting the Seth Rollins theme. That's what they do. But CM Punk is moving a needle right now, and he is connecting with this audience, especially with the use of language in his promos that he's, back home. He's here and he loves the fans, and he talks so much about, that side of it, about how much they mean to him. So he's drawing the fans in, whether this is a big, as they call it, swerve ready to happen. And Punk, I don't want to say that he becomes the old CM Punk that people disliked back in the day, but at least portrays that version of CM Punk, because look at it this way. As Justin said, we hear the rumors of whether these two really do like each other, and if they don't like each other, at least they're smart enough to know that, hey, we're in this business to do business, and there's dollar signs written all over this.
Justin, this was a question posed to me by fellow Wrestling Inc. Correspondent, host, whatever, Flobo Voice asked me. I'm going to ask you now. Is it too soon to do CM Punk versus Seth Rollins?
If you're talking about like next week or something, yeah. But no, I don't think this match happens till Mania. I think had they not had we gone all the way to Punk entering the Rumble, let's say win the Rumble, and then the next night declares it's going to be him, and if the night after Rumble would have been the first time that we saw Seth and Punk, I think the crowd has been wanting this. It would that'd have been too much time. What does Punk do? I think this was smart. It's you address the elephant in the room, which is these two guys who have had words for each other in the past. So you address the elephant in the room. And yes, Seth dominated more of this, but that's what it was supposed to be. And Punk even said it. Punk said, there's your one pass. There's your one pass to disrespect me. Get all this bullshit off your chest. I hope you feel better, because the next time you do it, I'm coming after you. And so that was the one pass. That's why they could walk away and not swing. And I think you keep them apart. And I even think you might not even see Punk on Raw for a few weeks. You might not see Punk again until maybe January 1 when Seth is defending his title against Drew, I believe that we heard. Like, you might not see Punk for the next few weeks. You might just see some video promos to remind you that Punk's back or whatever. I think now Punk's back. We know he's back. He's now on Raw. He's declared for the Rumble. There's not that much more you can do. Unless you want to have him appear on Raw a time or two. And again, like a Finn Balor or somebody like Judgment Day who runs the place, want to push him around, and Punk's like, you know what? I want to get some of this ring rust off me before I got to beat 29 other people. And so unless you want to build a Raw around Punk's first in-ring singles match back, and you do it against somebody like a Finn, somebody that, was a first-time opponent, but is safe, he's going to take, like maybe they go that route. But I think you keep now Punk and Seth apart. You don't have them mention each other between now and then. You don't have them see each other again until they know that they're going to see each other at WrestleMania. And I would suspect that would either mean Punk wins Rumble, or Punk then has to go through whatever gauntlet is of Elimination Chamber in February to get himself to Mania. But either way, I would leave these two apart until it's time to say, yeah, we're fighting at Mania.
Justin, if you were the guy booking, would you have CM Punk have a match before Royal Rumble, or would you have the Rumble be his first match?
I think I'm not opposed, again, because there's so much time. I'm not opposed to having him have a singles match on Raw. I know there's a lot of luster to saying, to that being part of the attraction with Rumble, that it's his first time back in a WWE ring. But I feel like there's so much other attractions when it comes to Royal Rumble. You have 29 other guys that are going to be in that match, some of which might be surprises. You're going to have a Roman Reigns match probably. You assume you're going to have a Seth Rollins match. Like, there's going to be so much else that I feel like, given that they are trying to build these Monday Night Raws up a little bit more, I think that could be a good Raw thing to build. Man, you need to give it a few weeks build. Give us notice, 2-3 weeks out, that Punk's going to have his first match back. Again, that might be a really big way to make that January 1 show or the following week show, because actually the following week show, the January 7th show, that I believe is going to be the show that's going to be up against college football's national championship, which is always a tall task for them to compete against, because ESPN and all their channels airs all these different versions of the game. There's the game, and there's the version there's the sideline view with Pat McAfee. So that might be something to really try to combat. A big piece of competition is have Punk have his first singles match back as a warm up, as a tune up. Of course, as opposition's going to say, we're going to make sure you don't even enter Rumble. And that might be, again, motivation for Damian Priest and Judgment Day to have that angle. So yeah, I would go ahead and try to book him and build a Raw and try to pop a big number on Raw.
We got a super chat from Bigfoot Sneakerhead saying, I think we have a Lex Luger, Bret Hart type of Royal Rumble with Cody and Punk going over the ropes. Possibly
appropriate. Yeah, I mean that was
But
only if we can get Vince McMahon charging out there afterwards.
Yeah, but earlier you were talking about how deep the card is at the top level. Look at the situation they have going into the Rumble. You can make a case for both CM Punk and Cody Rhodes. And what if they were to eliminate each other and you have one other top superstar, take advantage of that? It's a deep roster right now. So that is a possibility, but you can still work your way towards having the Seth versus Punk and Cody versus Roman matches, highlighting each night of WrestleMania, despite the fact that I know the WWE now likes to highlight the women, and that's great. But those two matches, you can even make an argument which one would highlight which night too, depending on how you build towards it.
It's they've got so many people that if you told me, like, if Jack from the future came back and was like, this person won the Royal Rumble, I would say there's like 10 people whose names wouldn't surprise me. And I would also say, that's what you're telling me from the future. You couldn't give me anything better than that. Come on, future Jack.
Couldn't give me a stock tip.
Yeah, you couldn't give me something good. That's what you told me. You ruined the Royal Rumble for me. Great. But we have a question I want to throw up here real quick for you guys. From Pronouns Paul. Asks, do you think Raw is worth the 2-hour drive next week? I would say it depends on how many shows you've ever been to and how often they come to your town, but I would drive 2 hours for a Raw. I think those shows are great, especially if you don't get to see them very often.
Well, they're in Iowa next week, I believe.
Did they say Des Moines?
Des Moines, Iowa. Wait, isn't Seth Rollins from Iowa?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe so.
Not from Des Moines. Davenport, that's it, yeah.
And to be honest with to answer that question, only you can answer that. If you want to see it that badly, do it, man. It's sometimes it's worth the trip to see a live television happen. If you haven't been before, especially
if something big happens. Like, I was there when that happened, even if it's like a throwaway show. You're like, oh, that's cool. Like, I got to go see the one episode where WCW main evented, and it didn't go very well for him, but I can say I got to see it live. That was kind of cool.
Well, and I wonder, are you getting more bang for your buck? Because next week's Raw is live. The following week's Raw is Christmas, and they're giving the talent off. So I'd have to assume they're taping Raw ahead of time.
Or a best of, whatever the case may be.
So let's continue on. We're a little bit behind schedule, so we'll go through some of these. Bronson Reed versus Ivar, another hard-hitting match. But Jimmy, the thing that my only real note here is it ended with a superplex. Has that ever happened?
It's been a long time, but I liked it, and I like the fact I talk about the little things. Mm-hmm. The fact that Bronson Reed, who delivered the superplex off the top rope, also sold into the cover and draped his arm over Ivar. So they both felt the impact. That's what sold it for me even more. So I did like the finish.
Yeah, Justin, I was talking to a pal of mine, Slice Boogie, who's a wrestler, and he's like, that's like the best move that is always a big deal, but never wins matches. Why don't people ever win with it? And so it's cool. I personally popped for it because, like, we were just talking about that. It happened.
You're not going to get a bigger. Everybody stood up as that happened. You're not going to get a bigger moment or bigger reaction. So end it there. Anything else they would have done after that, I would be like, they can't top that. So I love it. And shout out also to the spot they did earlier in the match when both big guys are each get knocked to the outside of the ring. They're on opposite side of the ring. They both like see each other, slam their hands on the apron, and then proceed to go and meet each other at halfway point, and then they just both cross body each other. It was just a great, like, it was just I know we get tired and they don't of rematches or anything, but like these two have had 3 or 4 matches now, and I'm not tired of it because every time I feel like there's something new in it that's like, oh my God.
Yeah, they have great chemistry. In fact, I was wondering almost at the end, like, I know Ivar's already got a tag team partner. They're not really a tag. They don't look like a tag team, but I was like, I just want to see them keep interacting. Something about these two big dudes beating each other up is great. We got a couple backstage segments. CM Punk chats with the Judgment Day, and Priest implies that he's going to cash in on Punk if he does complete his story. And then CM Punk also sees Drew McIntyre, who's not super happy about seeing CM Punk, but Drew McIntyre's got a title shot coming up. Justin, for these, CM Punk, obviously that's been his thing. It's been kind of like, who is he meeting backstage for the first time or again after a long time? How long do you think we can do these before we start getting tired of them? Now, that said, I loved him today. I'm not complaining about today. I'm trying to make conversation.
No. Actually, I think quite frankly, based upon what I just told you a few minutes ago of how I think, maybe Punk's not on in front of the live audience next week or the next few weeks, or you just kind of pace things the right way. You could maybe get a couple of weeks of Raw out of just this. For TV, it's just him backstage, getting to know the lay of the land, and just teasing different interactions, just seeing him in frame with people that we haven't seen him before. And then, yes, if you do that, and the live audience sees that up on the Tron, and they don't get Punk at all, they're probably going to be salty. So probably dark match, like after the show's off the air, or whatever, maybe have Punk come out, just cut a promo and address the fans or whatever. Like, you probably need to have him do some kind of appearance live just for the live crowd. I think they're going to feel gypped otherwise. But that would be a way, again, to have him on TV, but buy some weeks without having to do too much, because he's kind of in a holding pattern until Rumble.
Bernie DC, shout out to him saying, good thing they had the interaction with his best friend Kofi. Jimmy, I was going to say, it really puts into perspective how long CM Punk's been gone when he did the Jamaican joke. And he's like, oh, I don't do that anymore. It's like, geez, it's been that long.
No, see, it's showing that he can have a lot of fun, and it feels genuine. You know, I don't want. Sometimes I think when I hear him talking in the ring, I'm home. I'm glad to be back home and stuff like that. And of course, it makes you wonder, okay, how genuine is that? But then you see these interactions he has backstage with some of the talent, and the one line that he said that even JBL's happy to see me.
Yeah,
when he said that in that promo, I mean, it's a fun time right now, and it makes you interested in wanting to see what happens next with him. That's what it's all about.
Yes, boy, with a super chat saying, shout out to HBK saying Punk left on his own terms. So we had a Caden Carter and Katana Chance hype video, and then they had a match against Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae, tag champs on commentary. Knox and Natalya watching on from the back. Carter and Chance get a pretty quick win here. Clearly, Jimmy, it seems like they're the next contenders for the title.
It appears to be, and nothing wrong with the match itself. It just felt like the audience wasn't into it, and that to me is the only thing that hurt the match, was the fact that you weren't getting the reactions, the live reactions, the audio, from the crowd. There were times where they made a little bit of noise, but it felt like they were waiting for something to happen that didn't happen.
Yeah, Justin, I was going to say, I to Jimmy's point, I feel like these two haven't really been on TV for months, so I don't know why the crowd would be that hot for them anyways. And then the video package, I love the video packages of WWE. This one didn't sit well with me because it was them saying, if you believe in yourself, you'll be where we are. And then it just showed them at the EDM festival. And I was like, is that where people are? Like, it didn't really show them in the match very much. Like that, where are you? I don't know. I feel like it's a weird video for them to come back and then win a match from.
Yeah, it's the same thing with them in their tag match last week. The audience still just doesn't know them real well, so it's you're trying to establish it and get to know them. The one thing I will say is I think it's pretty cool is it's 2 weeks in a row. They had their match last week, they won, and then win this one tonight. Both weeks, their finisher is two different things. Both were aerial moves that were pretty unique, not your run-of-the-mill tag team, double team moves. They were unique moves, and they've done two different ones. Both have names that Michael Cole was giving out. So I think that is kind of cool, is that they're trying to establish some of this unique offense that they can do. But yeah, it's going to take some time. The crowd still aren't quite sure, what to do. Yeah,
they're great from NXT, but just as far as on the main roster, we got to see them get some more. They're getting going, but I think that's why the crowd's not into it yet. You got to figure out. But another segment I really, really loved, Becky Lynch and Nia Jax had a chat. They relived the big moment from 5 years ago. That was 5 years ago. What is time? And now they want to talk about how they're going to fight now. Becky talks about Nia Jax hurting people, and then how Becky needs to end the lie that she is who she is because of that moment, because of Nia Jax. Justin, I'm always very tough on Becky Lynch. I'm tough on Nia Jax sometimes too, but I thought both of them were incredible in this, and I love the story they're telling. I feel like it's believable, and both of them feel like I don't know. I love this. This is like my favorite from both of them in a long time.
Yeah, and their promo exchange is not going to be the headline of the night because you have to go on after an earlier promo exchange between CM Punk and Seth Rollins. So I feel for the ladies there, but both of them had good jabs at each other, held their own. And you're right, they call back to the video from 5 years ago, and that was what was like the start of the man moniker, and Becky very bluntly going through the timeline of then you had surgery, then I had a baby, then you got fired, and even your two knees don't want to stand with you. I mean, there was just, but Nia got some back too. Nia, I mean, this this promo ended, and I was already excited about seeing them because they noted it, and I mentioned it last week on the podcast about how amazingly they've never had a singles match at least on TV, and I am really wanting to see this singles match now because it kind of like the same kind of formula with the Rollins Punk stuff. I'm like, I feel like there's a little bit of competition
Animosity?
here. We're gonna,
Animosity?
yeah, we're gonna go out. We're gonna do this. We're gonna make it look good, but I'm gonna, yeah. I was like, I felt bad. I was like, oh man, why did they have to follow Punk and Seth?
yeah. If it wasn't for Punk and Seth, this would have been the moment of the night for me, I think, by a good margin. And Jimmy, one of the things I think I love about it too is Becky Lynch is always like in a situation where she's in control, or she's sort of like, I always feel like she's not easily rattled, but she made such a good point about a lot of people do say that she's the man because of that moment, and it's because of Nia Jax. And so she is kind of in a she has to win moment. And I think that's so good for her. And then Nia being like, oh, you need me. Well, then no.
That line, and also that she's the woman who made the man.
Yes.
I mean, like you're talking about promo exchanges, it was a heck of a promo exchange. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about this as well, too, is this was a situation where you wanted to see them get into it and they didn't have the physical contact, which makes you want to see it even more and can't wait. And it just goes to show that not every face-to-face interaction without anybody in between has to end in physicality. They can draw you in with words, and that's what they did. They talked me into wanting to see these two ladies go at it. And especially with Becky, it's believable that she could beat someone as tough as Nia Jax. And Nia Jax, you're thinking, boy, she can do a number on her too. So,
yeah.
This whenever they have their match, whenever it is, I don't know when it's going to be again. If it's a Raw, if it's a Rumble, this is a match though that I would say, I know it's not normal by WWE policy. We don't do this. If one or both of the ladies would happen to get a little bit of color, it would not be the worst thing given this story that's traced back to this.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, and I feel like either way it would play well, whether it be Nia Jax, I guess, testing Becky Lynch by beating her again pretty bad, or Becky Lynch finally getting that, like, now I'm going to break your nose, or at least look like she did.
I know that it's a bad look and that they probably don't want the women out there doing any blading or anything like that. But if both ladies behind closed doors kind of come to an agreement of, look, I'm going to hit you. I'm going to get that nose trickling. As long as they're on the same page and know that that's the plan, because they know that red's going to equal green, go do it.
Yeah. I love it. And everyone in the chat looks like says the same thing. Max Feldman saying this promo was fire. Yes. Let's continue on. So great stuff there. DIY and Imperium have a little run in, and they have a 6-person tag, Imperium versus DI with Miz. Kind of how you'd expect it. Miz gets the win for his team, and then later gets a title shot. But the stipulation, Jimmy, is that if Miz loses this time, he doesn't get another title shot against Gunther.
Right. He can't challenge him for the Intercontinental Championship as long as Gunther is champion. So that gives that out that when he eventually does lose the championship, if they look at it, that they can use Miz in that spot, they can. But Miz is getting over huge as a babyface. Of course, tonight being in Cleveland also helped the cause. But for those watching at home too, yes, it was his hometown, but hearing all the people cheer for him, embracing that role as a babyface, let's put it that way, seems to be working for now until that big moment comes where it's going to happen sooner or later down the road. But I'm enjoying him in this babyface role. It's something a little different from Miz that we haven't seen before, and it's for now fun.
Yeah, and Rocky, I got a shout out, says commentary said DYI, and I'll be honest, when I heard that from Michael Cole, it actually just made me realize how good Cole is, because you never hear him mess up. So to hear that little mess up, I was like, wow, like he actually does. He's not a machine. He does make mistakes.
And Wade Barrett would not let him live it down.
No,
he hounded him the rest of the night.
I love that too. Good for Wade Barrett. But Justin, any takeaways from this one?
No, just that, I thought the Miz, when they said, "Oh, we have a partner," and this and that, I was like, "Well, it's Cleveland," and Miz just had the thing with Gunther. And quite frankly, if you're doing this rare babyface run right now with Miz, take advantage of the fact you're in his hometown and that it's so
yeah,
let's go with it.
We get to the end here. Shinsuke Nakamura versus Cody Rhodes. Earlier in the night, we had a pretty awesome Shinsuke cartoon. But once we get to the match, they go about 20 minutes, and Nakamura mists Cody and gets DQ'd. During a post-match attack, the Creed brothers come out to make the save. Nakamura gets another shot in as Cole tells the story, quote, "Every time Cody gets to write another chapter of his story, another obstacle gets in his way." Justin, I felt like this was a weird ending to me. Like, not Shinsuke necessarily getting a DQ, but like, I don't know why the Creed brothers came out, and it didn't feel like the show closer. I don't know, like what happened necessarily wasn't bad. It felt like a weird way to end the show.
Yeah, it did. Normally they end with some kind of surprise or cliffhanger or something. All right. So first off, I thought Nakamura, and I thought this prior to today, and I tweeted it this evening. I think Nakamura should have got a W. You could have done a spot where he hits the mist, and that's, I don't know. They could have found a way to get Nakamura a win. I don't agree with, like, he gets DQ'd because of the mist, and the ref can clearly see that Cody's covered in the mist, and so it's a DQ. But then Nakamura still stands tall by beating on him. I'm like, but Nakamura has not got any important wins. He has lost every. He was challenging Seth several months ago when they were here in Pittsburgh for the pay-per-view. Get him a W, because this could be the first of a couple matches these two have, again, because we have time until Rumble. So I thought it was a missed opportunity. I thought Shinsuke should have got a W. I thought they're firing on really good cylinders with his presentation, with his promos, and I don't mind them adding the mist in there, but he's got to get a W at some point, So I thought that should have been, as my Monday night quarterbacking is going to happen. I thought that should have been altered. And then the Creed brothers. I know, again, we're trying to give them the rub of let them hang around Cody. They're our new babyface tag team. They might be our new babyface tag champ sooner or later. But they looked a little ridiculous, actually. They come running out there, and like they're trying to be there to be side with Cody, and like Cody's being helped and medical attention, and then Shinsuke comes back and beats Cody's ass a little bit more, and they didn't do anything. They didn't even get a hand on him or nothing. It's like there's two of you out there. Like how? So I didn't think that they looked any. I don't think they looked any more heroic or anything like that. So yeah, I was not a fan of. Match was fine, the bulk of the match, but the finish and the aftermath, I did not like this.
Yeah, Justin, I think I echo everything you just said. Jimmy, yeah, especially like the Creed brothers, not really helping against one guy when they just won basically a 2-on-4 situation earlier in the night.
Exactly what I was thinking, yeah.
And then, yeah, like Shinsuke, I guess I'm just echoing everything Justin just said. Like, the guy needs to get some serious wins. I mean, beating Otis is cool, but that doesn't make me fear you when you're facing someone like Cody, who's face of the company size star.
Right. And there's it's all about how he wins too. And he's in this, I love the role that Shinsuke's in right now in this heel persona that he's in. But they're making it almost feels like they're making it more about the mist than they are about Shinsuke. And yes, I get that the mist is part of that persona, but it doesn't have to be the only way for him to do something. Like you talk about, the brain thinking, what could they have done differently? How could they have gotten by it? We saw in the other match, there was the ref distraction with the turnbuckle sort of thing. It's almost like, why not have Shinsuke go for the mist and have Cody duck it and the referee be there, but he ducks and turns away from it as well. And as he turns away, there's your low blow, Justin. And it's like, You can't DQ him because he didn't get him with it. Yes, he attempted to. That's like swinging a chair and missing and DQing him anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's ways around it. They could have taken advantage of it. And again, afterwards with the Creed brothers, that didn't make sense. So a good match. Don't get me wrong. I thought those guys really put it out there, but it's what the people see last is what they remember most, and that didn't sit well with me. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So that does it for us. We covered the whole show. Everyone in the chat, let me know your overall thoughts of the show, and let me know what your favorite segment was while we go around the horn here. Justin, overall thoughts of the show, and where can the world find you online?
Overall, it was a pretty good show. I mean, again, the two really good personal feeling promos, and we got some other stories. Again, it looks like we're finally on the path to Judgment Day, having a major implosion, and you know, it's an exciting time. Yeah, find me at Justin LaBar on social media across Twitter and Instagram. I'm here on Monday nights. I will not be here on Wednesday night this week. So here on Monday nights, always with you guys. And Friday mornings, I'm on Busted Open Spar with LaBar, with myself, Dave LaGreca, and Thunder Rosa. And then every Sunday, Busted Open 24/7 now, 7 days a week, every single Sunday, 9 a.m. to noon Eastern time. Myself and Jonathan Hood bringing you Busted Open on Sunday, which is awesome because obviously there's so much that goes on now on Saturdays between premium live events and AEW shows, and then even the fallout from it's kind of like the fallout from the entire week. We kind of get to digest the entire week at that point and give it to you all on Sunday. So really looking forward to doing that. I mean, the first 3 shows have been a lot of fun. It's been met with a lot of great response. So you can listen live on channel 156. You can listen whenever you want on demand via the app. There's also a condensed version of the podcast, which gets you about 45 minutes of a 3-hour show. So if you're a podcast person, you can go that route. Awesome.
And Jimmy, how about you? Final thoughts, and where can we find you?
Like you guys, I enjoyed the show for the most part. There are little things, of course, I could nitpick about, and one of the things I can nitpick about this week, I'm not going to do I'm doing my ref and rants, as you know, on all my social media platforms from Monday to Friday. It's only a minute long. This week, I'm trying to keep every one positive because it is the holiday season. It's Christmas time coming up, and in the new year, and just trying to stay positive for a little while and pick something that I like. So if you're looking for me to go this week, ain't happening. And also you can catch me here on Mondays and Wednesday nights and on the Roughing It Up podcast with my good brother in stripes, Brian Hebner, and RJ, who holds the glue together every week. We have fun talking to whoever it may be. We actually spoke to Elijah Burke, which is kind of cool.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, that'll be a good one. Everyone has to check that one out, and check out Justin LaBar's new show, just taking over you two, and I'm hanging out here in the middle. But you can follow me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. I might start doing threads more. I don't know. That seems to be where some people are doing their social media stuff. And to tie things up, by the way, I'm looking at the chat here, and everyone's saying their favorite spots were the Rollins Punk promos and whatnot. And going back to the beginning, we talked about it's the stories, right? And so very interesting to see that there. But you can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. Make sure to follow at Wrestling Inc. for all the wrestling news you could ever need. And also make sure to check out the NXT after show right after NXT tomorrow, right here on